Our November 7th, 2022 session. The Wichita Public Schools will be the district of choice in our region where all students and staff are empowered to dream, believe, and achieve. If you would join with me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Tonight's Pledge of Allegiance is going to be led by Northwest High School Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Aiden Charlier, Cadet Captain Caitlin Wright, Cadet Captain Tegan Hughes, Cadet First Lieutenant Molly Eaton, and they are led by their professor or their teacher at Northwest High School, Lieutenant Colonel John Huey. Would you please rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Color guard, attention, forward, march. Mark time, march. Color guard, halt. Left, face. Present, colors. Sir, Wichita Northwest Varsity Color Guard, requesting permission to post the colors. Sir.
You may post the colors.
Thank you, sir. Order, colors. Colors reverse, march. Color guard, halt. Outward, face. Forward, march. Color guard, halt. Post. Post. Colors.
Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Present. Arms.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms. About. Face. Forward. March.
You may be seated, and let's have a round of applause for the Northwest Junior ROTC. And it's my understanding that the Northwest High School JROTC was also busy visiting some veterans in their home. If Kathy, you want to tell us about that?
Oh, thank you. The JROTC that you just saw present the colors actually went to Avita Nursing Home and presented the colors and coins and certificates of recognition to the veterans that were residents of that home. I'm very, very proud of these cadets, and I'm super, super excited about the JROTC program. Can we give them another hand, please?
Thank you, Kathy. I apologize. I didn't even warn you I was going to have you do a quick report on that. You did great. Thank you. Patrick, first item, please.
First item, under reports, good news.
Good evening, President Reeser, members of the board, Superintendent Thompson. I'm Wendy Johnson in Strategic Communications. The last couple of weeks have been full of really amazing opportunities, not unlike what Ms. Bond mentioned, to observe, to celebrate with amazing students, staff, and the community that we impact every single day. So it's pretty cool that tonight we have 4 good news items that really give you that breadth of opportunity to celebrate students, teachers, and the community that turns out in a big way, as you'll find out soon, to support what happens in the Wichita Public Schools. Before I introduce you to our first item, I do just want to add, last Friday we hosted Leadership Wichita at East High and at Adams Elementary, And those two schools and the students and staff in those schools were beyond amazing in their representation of the opportunities that the Wichita Public Schools offers to kids. So I just wanted to make sure and acknowledge them because they and all of our students give us so much to be proud of. Your first item tonight allows you to celebrate one of those staff members that supports outstanding achievements by our students. To introduce you to the 22-23 Kansas World Languages Association Teacher of the Year, I am pleased to invite Ms. Stephanie Wasco, principal at North High, forward, along with Jennifer Parga, the department chair at North High, and our honoree, Ms. Alyssa Rumpel.
Dr. Thompson, President Reeser, members of the board, my name is Stephanie Wasco, and I'm principal at Wichita North High School. I am here with Jennifer Parga, North High School World Languages Department Lead. Ms. Parga and I are pleased to recognize Alyssa Rumpel, North High School World Languages teacher, on being named as Kansas World Language Association's 2022 Kansas World Language Teacher of the Year.
Good evening. Just a little bit of background. Alyssa has 18 years of experience as a world languages teacher and has taught Spanish at the high school and post-secondary levels. She also serves as the World Language Support Specialist for Wichita Public Schools and has been instrumental in bringing the seal of biliteracy to Wichita Public Schools. She's very deserving of this award, and we are proud of her hard work and dedication to the profession, to her students, and to building lifelong lovers and learners of world languages. Alyssa will move on to represent Kansas in the upcoming Central States Conference for Central States Regional Teacher of the Year Award, which will take place March 9th through the 11th in Columbus, Ohio.
Our teachers are far more comfortable in front of their students than they are in front of crowd accepting acknowledgement, but we appreciate you, and we know that that's what our teachers are about. Thank you.
Our second item tonight allows you to honor young people that are in classrooms like Ms. Rumpel's all across our district and across Sedgwick County. Here to introduce you to this year's Mayor's Youth Council, including a few faces that you've seen at our podium before, is Madeline Orton, who is the coordinator of the Mayor's Youth Council for the City of Wichita. And I don't want the opportunity to leave us to recognize as well Miss Patty Stever, whom you all know, who supports student leadership in the Wichita Public Schools. So Madeline and students, please come down to my left so we can celebrate you.
Cool. Good.
Hi, everyone. My
Hello.
name is Madeline Orton. I'm the Mayor's Youth Council Coordinator this year. I work for the City of Wichita. I'm a management fellow in the City Manager's office. It's a great honor to serve these students. They're doing wonderful work. It's amazing to see so many passionate young people. They have the brightest minds. They're so excited to see what they can do to serve this community. Our year is relatively young. You know, we started up again back in August, and we're excited to see what happens. We're going to a conference. A few of the youth are going to be able to attend a conference with me in Kansas City in a couple weeks, and we're going to be working on a lot of community service projects this year. It's an incredible organization with wonderful youth who are going to make a real difference in the world. So I'd love to turn the mic over to our youth mayor, Kate Halvey.
My name is Kate Halby, and I'm a senior at East High. I currently serve as the youth mayor of the Mayor's Youth Council in Wichita. I'd love to introduce you to everybody here. Everybody here works extremely hard to benefit their community. They have a volunteer hour requirement where they have to stay involved, and it's really good to see so many people who really want to be involved in working with the community.
Thank you again for having us. You all have a good night.
And we'll have each one go by and say your name and what school you go to.
Hi, I'm Najee Dixon, and I go to Southeast.
Hi again. I'm Andrew Lee. I'm a senior, and I go to Wichita Southeast High School.
Hi, I'm Tatiana Carter. I'm a junior, and I go to Northeast High School.
Hi, my name is Natalie Schaefer, and I'm a junior at Wichita East High School. Hi, my name is Amira Gopher, and I'm also a junior at East High School.
Hi, I'm Tyler Childers, and I'm a sophomore at Northwest High School.
I'm Zoe Washington, and I'm a sophomore at South High School.
Hi, my name is Natalie Fan, and I'm a senior at Cape and Mount Carmel.
Hi, my name is Alonzo Dozell, and I'm a sophomore at Wichita Northwest High School.
Hi, I'm Amaya Williams, and I am a sophomore at East High School.
Thank you very much. Now, which one's the vice mayor? I know Kate's the mayor. Okay.
Hi again, I'm Tatiana, and I'm the vice mayor this year of Mayor's Youth Council.
Welcome. Thank you so much. We appreciate the Youth Council, and it's always great because we also get students outside of our school district invited to these type of meetings. So thank you for all your work, and we appreciate your community involvement. That is awesome.
I've heard both President Reeser and Dr. Thompson say often that the future of our community sits in our classrooms. Friends, I think we might have just seen the future standing right up in front of you. I am certain several of them indicated that they have political aspirations. So it will be interesting to see how many of them might occupy your seats or seats at the city or the county level. So we're going to go from our oldest students to our youngest students, specifically our preschoolers. And there have been proclamations recently at Sedgwick County and the city of Wichita, so we thought it was only fitting that Shannon Benoit, Executive Director of Early Childhood in our district, comes forward to tell you a little bit about November being Kansas Reads to Preschoolers Month, to share a proclamation with you and to invite you to come read to our sweet babies in class. So without further ado, Shannon.
Good evening. Good evening, President Reesner, Dr. Alicia Thompson, and school board members. We are excited to announce that the City of Wichita has declared November as Wichita Reads to Preschoolers Month. This proclamation coincides with Kansas Reads to Preschooler Month. The Wichita Literacy Coalition requested the proclamations locally to highlight the importance of kindergarten readiness and encourage everyone to read to the littles in their life. Kansas Reads to Preschooler annually celebrates the power of reading to young children. Spending just 5 minutes will compel their imaginations, build pre-reading skills, and plant seeds for their future successes. The Wichita Literacy Coalition mission is to support community partners in their efforts to create equitable access to awareness, education, and wellness services, establishing a foundation of kindergarten readiness for children from birth to age 5. Tonight, we invite Wichita Public Schools to take part in our community proclamation of Wichita Reads to Preschooler Month. So at this time, I would like to read the proclamation that we have set for Wichita Public Schools. By the Board of Education in Wichita, Kansas, whereas evidence indicates that children who do not read at grade level upon entering 3rd grade are 4 times less likely to graduate from high school, and whereas the Wichita School Board, which effectively works with the community partners to increase kindergarten readiness for children and families experience the greatest need, or Wichita, the Kansas Health Foundation, who has generously provided funding for the Wichita Literacy Coalition, and whereas the Wichita School Board is dedicated to improving kindergarten readiness, which improves high school graduation and therefore positively impacts our workforce readiness and the holistic success of the Kansas economy. And whereas the Wichita School Board is dedicated to serving its families and students through our literacy initiative and our strategic plan goal of increasing 3rd grade reading proficiency. And so now it would be resolved, I'm going to read Stan's part, that I, Stan Reasoner, President of the Wichita School Board, along with the Wichita School Board, do hereby proclaim the month of November as Wichita Reads to the Preschoolers Month. The Wichita School Board encourages all citizens to read to their children, therefore encouraging the holistic health of families in the city of Wichita at large. And then we also, and I would invite Stan if he wants to come up and sign our proclamation. I also put an invitation at your spots. We are going to send this out to district leadership and, of course, yourselves first. And we wanted to invite you to read to a preschool room. So if you wanted to scan our QR code, if you want to scan our QR code or go to our bit.ly, tell us when you would be available to read. We will set you up with a classroom that's in your district.
We're very proud to join all the other elected bodies in the county in proclaiming this month as month of reading to preschoolers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sounds good.
Thank you, Shannon.
I can't wait. Okay, so I mentioned that we had a couple of great weeks to celebrate students, staff, and the community that shows out to support them. So it's fitting that our final good news item tonight allows you to recognize the community that has supported the Superintendent's Legacy Fund and the college and career readiness opportunities that the fund benefits. Specifically, I think we're going to have an announcement of the amazing total that this year's Superintendent's Legacy Tournament raised, which is impressive to say the least. So without further ado, it's my honor to invite Holly Wilson forward from our grants office, as well as one of our favorite community partners, Mr. Bradley Dyer.
I have a lot to say, so hold tight. Good evening, President Reeser, Vice President Hedrick, Superintendent Thompson, and members of the board. I'm thrilled to be here tonight to share the good news of our district's 3rd annual Legacy Fund Golf Classic, recognize our key sponsors, and our planning committee. When we started discussing the idea of creating a golf tournament in late 2019, we really didn't know what to expect or how district partners would respond and support this idea. 3 years later, here we are recapping another sold-out event with a waiting list, I might add, and partners are excited to jump back in for the 4th year. The 3rd annual Legacy Fund Golf Classic was held on Friday, October 17th at Crestview Country Club's esteemed North Course. This year's tournament generated an astounding $110,000 in revenue for our Legacy Fund.
Proceeds from this tournament will directly support college and career readiness opportunities, assisting our students with early college academy tuition, dual credit fees, and credentialing and certification for students in CTE pathways across the district. With the help of the Legacy Fund, we are creating more opportunities for underserved. With the help of Legacy Fund, we are creating more opportunities for underserved students to develop market value assets, a priority for our students as they graduate high school. A few of the highlights from this tournament included breakfast catered by our culinary students at Northwest, Southeast, South, Heights, and North, and coordinated by the fabulous Bill Loudermilk at East High. An interactive booth that showcased our career pathways, credentialing, and workplace learning opportunities. Several members of our district leadership team and quite a few of our district staff golfed in this tournament this year. We even had a few of those WPS staff members in the winner's circle. Joining me this evening are our valued district partners and top-tiered sponsors. Tonight I have with me Mr. Bradley from Credit Union of America, and we also, I think, have Spirit Aero Systems. I hope they are here. And I'd like to bring them up. First, our presenting sponsor with a $20,000 investment, Credit Union of America, a dear friend and valued partner. Here with us tonight is Bradley Dyer. Credit Union of America supports our district in many ways throughout the year. They are a true definition of a partner. CUA is just as passionate about educating the future workforce of South Central Kansas as we are. We couldn't be happier that CUA was on board for the third year as our presenting sponsor for this tournament. I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Dyer.
Good evening, everyone. President Reeser, Superintendent Thompson, to the fine board and everyone here. It's a pleasure to be here. I have to start just real quick by speaking directly to this amazing leader. What an absolute pleasure it was working with you over the last 5 years. Yes, well deserved. Congratulations on this announcement. And while my congratulations is heartfelt, man, we gonna miss you. So, well, thank you. Now to the business at hand. Again, it's a pleasure to be here accepting this award. It's an honor to accept this plaque and this award on behalf of Credit Union of America for being the presenting sponsor over these last 3 years. When this opportunity was first brought to us, I have to admit, we knew it was something special. And we understood that this could have generational impact, not just for the students involved, but for our community. And so it was a no-brainer, particularly because Credit Union of America, we are the educators' credit union. And so recently I had an opportunity to attend the Pathways to Success VIP reception, and just to hear and to see the kind of impact that the funds are having and is going to have just reaffirms what we knew, that we did the right thing, we made the right decision to be the presenting sponsor. So with that, on behalf of our CEO, Mr. Frank Schaffner, on behalf of all of the employees at Credit Union of America, it is my absolute pleasure to say thank you for this recognition, and please know this, you will have our continued support. Thank you.
Thank you, Bradley.
If you would please tell all the employees at Credit Union of America that we appreciate their partnership all these years. And I tell you one thing about Credit Union of America, I don't know if you know their background, but they started off as a teacher's credit union. So they definitely tied into education. But you see credit unions partner all over this city, and we appreciate your community involvement. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you, Bradley. We have two other sponsors we're recognizing tonight. These are $10,000 legacy sponsors. Spirit Aerosystem, who is a longtime partner of ours, as well as Cessna Beechcraft and Textron Aviation. They could not be here tonight, but they are our partners here for the third year in a row, and we're excited to recognize them at all. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank each of our sponsors for their support of the Legacy Fun Golf Classic, making it as wildly impactful as we all envisioned. We couldn't imagine building our future workforce without your input and support. A full list of our tournament sponsors is available in the tournament recap that we provided to the board. One of the most common comments that we hear from our sponsors, besides how organized and fun it is that they appreciate the immediate return on their investment. Prior to this year's tournament, the Legacy Fun Golf Classic had raised over $197,000 that had already invested over $157,000 of that back into our students. Adding this additional $110,000 this year to the fund opens up brand new doors of possibility for our students. Pulling off an event of this magnitude takes a group of dedicated staff and committee members to be successful. The Classic takes a full year to plan and execute, and I have an amazing team that works alongside me to make sure every detail is planned and things run smoothly. There's not enough words for my staff and our committee and our volunteers to thank them for their dedication to this event year in and year out. They show up at 5:30 a.m. As you can see the sun rising. We watch it rise every year. And they make sure everything's cleaned up, packed away, and they simply do it for our students' success. Thank you so much for your time this evening, and I look forward to seeing you all at Crestview on Friday, October 6th, 2023 for our 4th annual Legacy Fun Golf Classic.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
Patrick, next item, please.
Next item, under reports, Service Employees International.
Welcome, Esau.
Good evening, President Reeser, Dr. Thompson, Vice President Hedrick, and board members. Had to get my readers. I'm getting there. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. And Dr. Thompson, we do not accept your retirement, and we will fight kicking and screaming to keep you here because we love you and we need you. On the flip side, in all earnest, we can't blame you after such a successful career, and you do deserve to enjoy your free time and your family, so that's probably the best choice for you, I understand. If you haven't gotten out to vote, we highly encourage that you do so. It's important to elect leaders who will adequately fund our schools and have the courage to stand up to critics who think they just need another tax break. We want to thank you for addressing the concerns around the district pertaining to violence and overcrowding, and we look forward to hearing a little bit more about that tonight as I read ahead on the agenda. And I just wanted to point out that the National Education Association put out a document called the Elevating of Education Profession, and it talked about educator shortages and talked about how to make public education a competitive and interesting career path for people. And the August 2022, the School Pulse panel also asked about understaffing in non-teaching positions, and as you know, that's what I represent. And not to take too much time here, but the understaffing in transportation was 59%, and this isn't USD 259, but it's an overall America look. Custodial staff were 50% behind, mental health professionals 49%, and academic interventionist 43%. And an astounding 94% of principals reported that it was somewhat or very difficult to fill the transportation positions with fully certified staff, and 84% of them said the same about the custodial positions. So that means from 2012 to 2021, there's been an overall decrease in food service workers, transportation workers, custodial workers, and clerical workers. And thanks goodness that we have seen some gains in our paraprofessionals and our security departments, because we definitely have needed them. However, we all know we're still experiencing staffing shortages here, and those staff who are filling the gaps need some encouragement and they need some support. No matter who wins the election tomorrow, our children still need better funding, they still need more staff to enrich them, and we need all of you to carry that message to the new representatives and the House members and the county commissioners If Wichita Public School wants to be the district of choice, we need to cast politics aside and do what's right for our staff and our students. We can't train America's future with overcrowded classrooms, understaffed, or underfunded schools. And I think that all of you know that, but I think it's really important that we all push that because I think our kids deserve it. I think our staff deserves it. And I know it's hard to hire people for what you're able to pay. So I hope that every constituent will reach out to their legislator and make that a top priority in the coming year. So thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Esau. Patrick, next item, please.
Next item, under reports, United Teachers of Wichita.
Welcome, Katie. And I see you brought your new vice president.
I did, yes. President Reeser, Vice President Hedrick, Superintendent Dr. Thompson. I just wanted to first start off by saying congratulations on your retirement announcement, Dr. Thompson. We definitely have mixed feelings over at the UTW office because we're really happy for you, but we're really sad to have you leave. It's just been a blessing to have a former teacher and a former UTW member. As the superintendent, you understand the needs of our staff, our students, and our community, and you'll really be missed. Just like Esau said, said it perfectly. We want to remind everyone to vote tomorrow. Elections are so important in order to fund our schools. So just a reminder to the public and everyone here, make sure you get out and vote. I read a report recently that there's over 1,400 teacher openings in Kansas. Recently, we've added so many wonderful programs such as restorative practices, letters, and SRGs for high schools. But I'm asking tonight, whatever we add to those teachers' plates, I'd like you to ask, what are we taking off their plates? I can't think of one program in Wichita Public Schools that doesn't have value, but we simply do not have the time to do it all as teachers. And our teachers need that work-life balance in order to avoid burnout. I feel a focus on teacher retention has never been more important than now with this shortage. We really value the conversations we've been having with district leadership, BOE member, and those BOE members to discuss educator and teacher needs. And we look forward to further productive conversations so we can support our teachers and they can support their students. Last, like you said, I wanted to introduce our vice president. Mike Harris was elected by our building per reps at the last meeting. I think it was October 25th. So do you want to say hi?
Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson, President Reeser, and all the board members and the leadership team for the district. In the interest of not having President Reeser cut me off for speaking too long tonight, I'll keep it short. Thank you to all of you for all that you do for all of our schools. It's appreciated. And Dr. Thompson, I don't know how this community can thank you enough for the legacy that you leave and the tremendous accomplishments that you made on behalf of all of our children. And as I told you in my email to you this week, my mother was a teacher too, and those roots are strong with me. And as Vice President, I hope I can begin to scratch the surface of what you've accomplished in working to benefit students and educators in our community. Thank you for all the well wishes that I've received from each of you in the conversations that we've had from district leadership and from the board. I look forward to continuing those conversations as Katie and I work together. I will continue the message that everybody's expressed, and that is I hope everybody gets out to vote. And regardless of what you feel about issues or what side you're on, go do your civic duty and vote tomorrow. And I hope every member of our public takes time tomorrow to go do that and to vote for pro-public education candidates that will continue to support and fund our schools to adequate levels. So again, thank you for all the work you do. I look forward to collaboration with all of you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael. Congratulations on your new position.
Thanks.
Patrick, next item, please.
Next item, public communications.
And there are none signed up tonight, correct?
Correct.
Next item, then.
Next item, under education, Southeast High School enrollment update.
I'll have Dr. Thompson introduce the topic, and we have an important update on the enrollment process, the Southeast enrollment process.
First, I'd like to acknowledge the administration from the Wichita Southeast High School, Mr. Ben Mitchell. Thank you for being here, sir. And then from there, we've had lots of things going on over the last month, and I'm going to just go right straight to my team and let them begin the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. President Reeser, members of the board, I'm Gil Alvarez, Deputy Superintendent, and joining me tonight is Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Schools, Amanda Kingery, and our Division Director of Operations, Fabian Armendariz. Together, we're back to update you on solutions to the overcrowding at Southeast. Since our last presentation, leadership staff have conducted 8 stakeholder listening sessions and online input opportunities between mid-October and early November to gather feedback on possible short-term and long-term solutions for the overcrowding at Southeast, which includes the boundary change being evaluated. We would like to update you on the feedback received at these listening sessions, which some themes did emerge. At the end of the presentation, we will be providing a boundary change recommendation, but first we will begin with some background information and our current short-term solution. So I'll now turn it over to Fabian to start with our background information.
Well, good evening, Superintendent Thompson, President Reeser, Vice President Hedrick, members of the board. It is an honor to be here after, I think, what's been a few months of a whirlwind. But we're excited to bring you some additional information tonight as well as a recommendation. The first part of the presentation that we'll go over is review. You've seen it many a times. I feel like we could do this in our sleep probably. But it is important for members of our community to understand a little bit of background as to what led us to this point. Again, we've been monitoring enrollment at Southeast High School since the school was relocated from where our administrative center is at. The area is growing, there's no question about that, with the potential for future growth. The trends that we were operating under, we're operating under the assumption that the school was retaining 73.8% of their students, and as we've shared with you before, they're not retaining much more of their students, and that in itself is a good thing, but with a good thing often comes unintended consequences, and part of that is the enrollment growth that we've seen in that building. The school building's functional capacity is listed as 1982. And the solutions that we've developed that are going to be presented tonight were really done after a detailed analysis and engaging stakeholders. And you will see that tonight's presentation really reflects that, even changing some of the terminology where we were calling this boundary change a long-term solution. We now understand it's really a longer short-term solution, and you will see a presentation later this evening that's going to highlight more of what the long-term solution is going to be for our entire system.
So as Fabian said, he's going to talk to you a little bit more about the long term. So I'm going to discuss kind of some of the short term solutions. And we shared this with you, previously last month, but we kind of want to let you know where we are today. So we said that some of our solutions was to allow special transfers that were submitted this year that were originally denied the opportunity to go to other schools that do not include East and North. And we've already offered all of those positions, those opportunities for those students that applied. So we are getting responses back as we speak. So we don't have final numbers on those, but we already have reached out. So that's been done and completed. The additional support staff to Southeast High School, those are some of the things that we've already done, from long-term subs to additional security officer. I know that they're still waiting to hire for that position. So that's some of the additional support. And then we also said that we were going to open up second semester some students that are on the wait list for Northeast Magnet, and we have already done that as well. And so we have students who have accepted at this point, but we still are getting numbers in on that. So those are things that have already, we said originally last month that this is what we wanted to do. Wanted you to know we have done that. We're already getting responses from students one way or another, whether they want to stay or if they want to take the opportunity to go to the school of choice. And then since last time, because of some of the listening sessions and listening from staff and other either at Southeast or Heights, some of the recommendations were to open up some more slots in some of our alternative programs, such as EIA Academy. And so that's Education Imagine Academy. We looked at Chester Lewis, Town East, as well as Wichita Acceleration Academy. And with that, between all of those schools, we have an additional about 200 slots for students to go. So that's a new one that you did not see last month. And we are in the process of getting some names and some students for those schools at the moment. So. And then last, what we're here about today and for the future is, again, looking at students that reside in a certain boundary that Fabian's going to discuss, offering opportunity for those students to go to Heights High School for second semester. So we have the list of students. As soon as we kind of get some input from you today, we already have letters ready to go to offer up spots for those students as well that would go into effect second semester. Just wanted to kind of point out to the public, these would be special transfers for this school year only, without an official boundary change. And so if those students went on a special transfer, those special transfer rules would apply, which means district transportation would not be provided for this school year. Again, this is just for second semester. And CASHA rules, athletic eligibility for varsity sports, students would not be eligible because it is considered a special transfer for any varsity sports in the spring or the winter.
So just to recap a little bit of the area that we are looking at making this boundary adjustment for, it is comprised of portions of 4 elementary boundaries. They're the northern portion of the Adams Elementary boundary as well as College Hill, the southern portion of the Jackson Elementary boundary, and the majority of Price Harris. So it is the area that you see in the red in this map, and there's the location of Heights and Southeast. Although the map looks a little deceiving, if you look at the area and the actual location of the schools, the distance is fairly comparable with, for the majority of kids, actually Heights would be closer than Southeast is. As we look at this area in future or in greater detail, you can see, and the R stands for reside, so that is the total number of students that reside within that boundary. The RNA stands for reside and attend, meaning those are the actual number of students at Southeast High School that are living within that boundary. And so for that northern portion of the College Hill boundary, there's 61 high school students that currently reside in that area, of which 46 currently attend Southeast. The northern portion of the Adams Elementary boundary, 72 reside, 48 reside and attend. And then for the southern portion of the Jackson boundary, there's 80 high school students that currently reside in that area, of which 62 reside and attend. And your largest chunk or portion of the proposed boundary change comes from the Price Harris Elementary boundary. There's about 169 high school students that reside in that boundary, of which 104 currently attend. So in total, if we were to add all of the students together, there's a total of 382 high school students that reside in that boundary, of which 260 would be eligible to attend Southeast High School. So if the boundary change were to be approved, at that point, then that entire area would turn into yellow, and all of those high school students moving forward would be assigned to Heights High School. So now in looking at some of the feedback that we initially received, there were concerns about the demographics. I think there were concerns from staffs at both sides, really not wanting to lose the culture of their building, the diversity within their buildings. And so we took a greater look at the impacted area to determine what impact that would be, not only if all students were to leave Southeast, but then if all students were to be added to Heights High School. So as you can see, the columns in the white represent those 260 students that reside in that boundary change area. And those are your race demographics for all of them, or their ethnicity. Roughly 43.8% of those students are Black or African American, 19.2 are Hispanic, and 26.5 are white. Then you see in the yellow, Southeast current enrollment, there are 2192 students. And then what would happen to their enrollment if all 260 students were to be moved? And the changes in their demographics are not significant. Their Asian population would increase by about 1%, just a little bit over 1%. Their Black or African American population would decrease by 2%. Their Hispanic population would increase by about 1.3%. And then their white population would decrease. Then the column, the gray on the right, we wanted to look at what would happen to Heights current enrollment and what their impact would be if all 260 students were to move. And so as you can see, their 1294 is what their current enrollment is. They dipped below 1,300 this year. So if all students were to move, and again, this is if everyone was to go, we understand that there are going to be elements of this decision, including grandfathering potentially, that we're going to see the shifts be gradual. So it's not going to be all 260 students at once. Really, the change is going to be gradual as your incoming 8th graders become 9th graders, and then that will continue on as this progresses. But even at Heights, whose enrollment is a little bit lower, the impact of the addition of these students will not be significant. As you can see, their Black or African American population would increase by about 1.6%. Their Hispanic population remains the same. Their 2 or more races population decreases by about 0.6%, and their white population decreases by about 1.1%. The other piece that you see at the bottom is the free and reduced rates. This area or this data is highly confidential, so we can't disaggregate it. We can only report it to you in groupings. And so for the area of impact, those 260 students, the free and reduced rate for those students is about 75.35%. Southeast currently is 74.71. So losing all 260 students, they would probably decrease slightly in terms of their free and reduced rate. On the opposite end, Heights is currently at 67.83% free and reduced. So those 260 students would cause Heights to increase slightly in their free and reduced rate percentages. And I will tell you, it was very clear, even through the listening sessions from our parents, that they value the diversity that our district offers. And so for them, it was very important to see this data because they wanted to make sure that the fabric of those schools will remain the same, even through these demographic shifts that we're proposing.
So we've talked a lot about the listening sessions, and I know that Mr. Alvarez said that we did 8 listening sessions, but this is specifically where we went for those listening sessions. We went to Southeast High School. We began with the staff. We did a morning session and an afternoon session, so we did 2 with them. We went and we talked to the students that were impacted, that were within the boundary that Fabian just talked about. We met with them to get feedback from them about what they thought about the potential change with the boundary. We also talked with Southeast High School's student government students, and then we went to Heights High School and Northeast High School because we know that those are also schools that would be affected with this boundary change, or for Northeast, it's students coming in that semester. And then lastly, just last week, we did 2 community listening sessions, one at Coleman and one at Adams. And so originally, we kind of looked at each and every single one of those 8 listening sessions. We didn't think that you wanted to be here all evening, so we compiled it down to one slide to kind of combine all the responses. But basically what we found by listening to the students and the staff at all of the buildings as well as the community, they all had pretty much the same pros, the same cons, and the same ideas. There was just very little variance between all of the groups. So I think that what you're seeing today, you'll have a good feel of what all groups like. Yes.
And I just want to add, just for the record, that every word that was stated, every piece of paper that was collected, tons and tons of feedback is provided to the board. So we're not just giving them pieces of what we think should be told. We're telling the whole story by giving them every single document that was given. So just make that clear that they have seen everything that you have said.
Thank you for pointing that out. So we did take each and every single one. When we say we, Alicia Allen, one of our administrative assistants, she's fabulous. She took all of the comments, she typed them up, she had them cut out, she had them laid out on her desk, and she categorized them. So we do have each and every single comment, but so under each of these main emerging themes that we're talking about, there are specific comments that you do have typed out and received. So thank you, Dr. Thompson. Some of the positives, obviously it's to help alleviate the overcrowding at Southeast. So ultimately that's the main positive that came through with this, is to decrease some of the enrollment there. We also heard that with that could improve class sizes, improve the classroom environment when you have less students. Also, the bus situation, we heard that from several groups for Southeast. Hopefully that it will also have less students on the bus and create less issues there. And then we heard some of the positives also, or like Fabian said, within that boundary, some of those students are actually closer to Heights High School than they are Southeast, so they're closer to home. They like the idea of choice, that you have a choice to go or you have the choice to stay. And then also, like Fabian said, the demographics, that was really important to our listener, or during the listening sessions, is that maintaining kind of the diversity within the buildings. And then lastly, the positive is to increase some of the safety. So on the flip side of that, as we talked to them, we asked also, what do you feel like could be some challenges or some cons to the situation? And so population impact, one way or another, especially when you're talking to Northeast and Heights staff, they're looking at an increase, which would impact their enrollment and their student population. And so that could potentially be a challenge for them. And then listening to some of the students, as well as actually the staff at all of the schools, all were concerned about the fact for students that have already been established at Southeast High School or might be involved in extracurricular activities, that is something that could be concerning for them, whether the other school has the same type of activities, or like some of the students that I heard say, well, I'm already on the dance team, or I'm already on the debate team, or I'm already, on whatever it is within that school, and they already feel like they're part of that community. So that's a concern. Not providing transportation at semester was loud and clear with all of our listening groups, that was a concern. And I would say within all of the listening sessions too, that they feel like this is really a short-term solution because it's not enough. And we're aware of that, and that's why we're trying to look at something that's more long-term. And that's why we also, by listening to them, we heard, are there other spots that could open up maybe at our alternative schools? And so that's where the additional 200 slots came open from that. And then obviously the effects on students and family could be concerning, moving from one high school to another. We also heard from the different groups, there was a lot of question around, will the families be split? So the kids that are currently at Southeast, will they be able to stay at Southeast? And then what about a sibling? If a sibling comes along, are they going to have to go to Heights while the students stay at Southeast? So those were the main effects that we were hearing about from our students and our families. A lot of questions around that grandfathering, which is the same thing about the effects of the families, and the grandfathering is exactly that. Will they be allowed to stay? What will happen with the siblings for the future? And then from the Southeast community, we did hear that yes, it will help with some of the class sizes, or it may help with the enrollment, but doesn't necessarily address some of the other issues that might be occurring in regards to behavior. So with all that said, once we kind of came up with some of the challenges, what other ideas? So we asked all of the groups, based on what our recommendations are there other things that we did not talk about that you feel like we should consider? Or do you, other solutions that you might have to some of these challenges? And that's where these other ideas came from. And so we heard about, are there other things that we can do to help address the learning environment within the building that may not necessarily, again, have to do specifically with the overcrowding issue? Other ideas, more staff from all schools. So whether that was Northeast, Heights, or Southeast, with the amount of students, could they receive more staff? Or if they have a potential influx of students coming into the other two schools, will staffing be provided for them? And we assured them, yes, if we're gonna add more students to your building, the staff will come with that. Ideas of multiple lunches came up for Southeast. Construction, that came up with pretty much every single group. And when we say construction, that was anything from adding on to Southeast High School or building a whole brand new building or a new school. Portables, you name it. So those were the under construction ideas that had come forth, including transportation. On the flip side of what could be challenging, if you provide transportation, maybe more students would go at semester. The more special transfer options, and so that's one of the things that we did take in place, because that was, again, was one of the ideas, and so that's where we opened up those alternative positions for the schools, for those schools. Moving programs was something that was considered. You know, Southeast has multiple programs. Would it be something that we could move out of there into another building to help with the student enrollment? And then lastly, we heard do something different with Northeast Magnet. And so that was anything from growing their magnet program and increasing the enrollment at Northeast Magnet, moving certain programs over to Northeast Magnet, turning it into a comprehensive high school. There was multiple things, but that came up with multiple groups as well. So things to consider based on all of the feedback that we received is grandfathering. I think that when making a decision today in regards to boundary, and we're going to give you our recommendation after this, but we want you to kind of consider some things before making your final decision. The grandfathering, again, going back to, we heard from multiple, whether it was students or staff or the community, concerns about if they already attend Southeast High School, can they continue to attend Southeast High School? And so letting that be an option, but also we know that we're trying to alleviate the population too. So what's the fine line between allowing students to stay and then thinking about and considering the siblings that are coming forth? But so consider that the students in that area that Fabian talked about, that any new incoming student, which would be your freshmen coming in next year, that they should be considered Heights students unless they complete a magnet application or a special transfer to go to another building. And then last, increasing the Northeast Magnet capacity is something to consider for us. So our proposal for tonight and our recommendation is that you approve the recommended boundary that was discussed today for the specified area for those students that are currently attending Southeast boundary to move into the Heights High School for the 23-24 school year, and then allow current students that are attending Southeast to be grandfathered into Southeast if they choose to remain through the end of their graduation. And those are our two recommendations. So with that, what kind of questions might you have?
Kathy?
Yes. Can I just answer all my questions?
Yes.
You guys have been busy, and I commend you on a thorough report. Thank you very much.
And I will say, this has not been a two-person show.
Well, I know that.
Strategic Communications has been amazing through this whole
The
process.
whole administration has been absolutely phenomenal in the last 2 weeks. I was going to actually say that later, but I'll say it now. You guys are awesome. Okay, I do have a question about additional support staff at Southeast High School under short-term solutions on page 4. If we're having a difficult time right now trying to hire what we already need, how are we going to come up with getting additional people? Oh, you can't hear me? Oh, thank you. Oh, okay. So that's kind of the question that I have. If you could help me with that first one.
Sure. Well, some of it we've already provided, and that was back last month. We shared that we did turn one of their ADs into an AP so they can take on more of the that role. We've already hired an additional security guard at the end of last year. Currently waiting to hire an additional security guard, but I do believe that we have people who have applied or have applied for security officer positions. So I do think we'll be able to fill the additional one. As far as long-term subs, I know we have one officially hired, and I know that we've been working on the other two.
Okay, that's just one of my concerns.
Yes.
On short-term solutions again, so the special transfers do not receive district-provided transportation. That is a big concern of mine too, because that's going to put a hardship on families to get their student from here to there.
Correct.
And I know you're working on that. I just needed to express my concern. This is a big one, though. The KSHSAA rules don't allow athletic eligibility in the spring for students who special transfer to Heights. This is an unusual circumstance in the middle of the school year. Are there no exemptions that can be made? I mean, you've got basketball, you've got girls. I mean, this is how kids stay out of trouble. And I would really like to see if there could be an exemption made for this.
I can tell you it is for varsity. They can play junior varsity, so students can still participate in athletics, not the varsity level.
So if you're a senior and you're on the varsity
Correct.
team, you have to go to the junior varsity team? Well, that's not going to go.
Right.
So again, could there be an exemption for our seniors who might be willing to transfer mid-year?
That would be a call that Keisha would need to make. We have to follow, Keisha has to make those decisions. We cannot override them and make up our own rules to fit what we want, even though we want to. They won't allow us to. And we had to call to get to see what kinds of permissions they would allow us to do in this situation, and we were not granted that opportunity.
To call them?
Well, no,
No.
to allow them to play varsity or.
So they said no. So there's no exemptions?
There is no exemptions.
Okay. Number 3, I have it here. Have you gotten a pulse of how many students would be willing to transfer if they have the choice to do that? Do we know how many from Southeast would be willing to move?
Last I heard, and this was last week, I don't have an updated number. I know we were around 20-some students at Northeast Magnet at the moment. But again, that was last week when they started making the calls that have already accepted. And I'm not sure where we are with the special transfers. And then we're waiting for tonight to send out for the 260.
Is there an incentive for the families to encourage their students attending Southeast to take that jump to Heights or Northeast Magnet? Is there any kind of incentive for our families?
I don't know that, incentive other than a smaller environment.
Well,
a
safety,
smaller
but yeah,
atmosphere.
I just wondered if there was an incentive for those families.
Yeah.
Okay. But we do have some incentives we could create, right? Thank you very much.
The question on sports, when I sat in on the students section part of the listening session, one thing you'll find is that any student that is already involved in Southeast Choir, the football team, the chess club, if they're involved in any kind of extra activity, then they've already bought into being a Southeast Buffalo, and they were actually at that meeting to make sure that we weren't going to force them to leave. So even if the sports association people gave us some kind of an exemption, those kids do not want to leave Southeast. So that's kind of a moot point. So what we will get is the kids who are interested in transferring to a smaller school. That's the kids we're going to attract. And we understand that that's a very short-term solution. Then we're trying to create a more permanent short-term solution, and then we will also be working on a long-term solution.
And I want to just reiterate that. This is definitely not the solution for Southeast. This is just something to try to do something temporarily and short-term. We know that there is definitely long-term plans that need to be made. And when you see the presentation next, you will begin to see a comprehensive look, because there was lots of suggestions that were given around things that we can do. It won't show up here in the short term, but when you start to look at that long-term look, there will be things that we will do that will address some of the things that folks were saying at Southeast and all the other listening sessions to be able to remedy that.
And Kathy, just one more thing to add. Typically, and this is, I think, my second looking at boundary changes for high school students, you're not going to see very many juniors and seniors change. Those kids are pretty much established in that building. So those numbers tend to dwindle as you get up to the upper grades anyway. So just know that that's traditionally, if the same situation happens in the past, we've seen very few juniors and seniors make the change.
Cheryl?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the public knows that the issue with transportation is a spring semester problem only. That next year, everybody that's in that boundary will be provided transportation if they qualify. And also that the problem with CASHA and sports goes away next fall.
Correct.
So it's just the one-term, semester problem that because we're changing mid-year, CASHA won't give us a grandfather or a give on that. And our transportation is so highly impacted already that we can't provide the transportation, but we will in the spring.
Correct. That's correct. Transportation and
Yeah,
sports
and
are
as I've
not
been
an
to
issue.
the meetings, the listening sessions, and listened to the parents and the staff and so on, I think everybody is trying to find the best solution that we can for this year, knowing that next year it's going to look a little better because of the things that are going into place. So I commend all of you and all of our staff that's worked very, very hard on this to try to give us some relief short term. Thank you.
Hazel?
Yes, I don't have any questions. I just want to tell you that you guys are great. You're doing a great job. You guys have worked really hard. I too attended some of the listening sessions, and you're very thorough in your presentation, and it's very clean, and I feel like you covered all the bases, and I just want to tell you that you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
So kind of yeah, go ahead, Julie.
Is it time for a motion?
Sure.
Oh. I'd like to move that we approve the recommended action suggested by our team here.
I'll second that.
Moved by Julie, seconded by Kathy. And just to summarize, we have a immediate short-term solution, and that is the voluntary transfers. Then we are going to look at creating that northwestern district of Southeast permanently into the Heights district for the next school year with the grandfathering. And then we will have a long-term solution when we get into the demographics. All those in favor of the motion? Oh, yeah, I was going to do hand, then I realized we have ours. Did you mean to vote, Ernestine?
Yes. You might pick it up and hold it.
I don't think, once it's established, it's gonna, yeah, I won't take it now. Patrick, would you put that Ernestine also voted yes, and it's a 7-0 vote?
Yes, I will put that in the minutes.
Okay, thank you. And thank you.
Thank you.
And Patrick, next item, please.
Next item, consent.
Okay. Diane, do you have any consent items to pull?
I do not.
Ernestine?
I do not.
I need to pull the at-risk manager one. Is that number 8?
C6.
C6? I'm sorry, let me just, not that I don't trust you, Julie.
Well, that's on the one that was mailed to me unless it's changed.
That's why I was wondering. Yes, it is C6. I'm pulling C6. Julie, any items to pull?
That's the one I was going to pull.
Okay.
So we're all good.
Kathy?
Nothing to pull.
Cheryl?
I have nothing to pull this evening, thank you.
Hazel?
I have nothing to pull.
Okay, I move that we adopt the consent agenda except for C6.
I second.
Moved by Stan, seconded by Ernestine to approve the consent agenda except for C6. Motion carries 7-0. Is Luke, Dr. Thompson, is Luke here to explain Randy's here?
I know. There we go. This is a pretty unique kind of process and way to go about doing some of our construction work. And so we thought it would be good for us just to kind of talk through this so that you kind of understand what is happening before we make this vote. Okay, so I'm going to let Randy kind of give us an idea of what this really means for us with the security improvements and the projects that we're going to do, and then we can kind of process that and ask any questions that you all may have.
Welcome, Randy.
Thank you. Good evening. I thought I'd start with just why we have the formal process. And so it's all in response to Kansas State Statute 72-6760, which states that the board will only approve those projects for which this alternative project delivery are appropriate. And they have five qualifying factors. The likelihood that the alternative project delivery method of procurement selected will serve the public interest by providing substantial savings of time or money over the traditional design, bid, build, delivery process. So I wanted a chance to address that first. This is a large and multifaceted project that involves office restricted accesses, teacher locks, badge access on elevators, elevator cameras, and intercom upgrades to ensure that the safety and security of our buildings are met. It's across multiple sites, 48 total sites. So this CMAR delivery method obviously helps us to deliver on that requirement. The ability to overlap design and construction phases is required to meet the needs of the end user. Again, this is a project over 48 buildings with lots of different scopes. And so this allows for the construction manager at risk to work hand in hand with the designer to develop bid packages so that we can get those bid packages released and out to the streets as quickly as possible. And also in consideration of the capacity of the workforce here in Wichita, which we've already seen to be an issue on some of our ESSERS projects mechanically. So this allows us to get the pulse of the community in terms of what the workforce can handle to ensure that we get the most competitive bids. And then the use of an accelerated schedule is required to make repairs resulting from an emergency situation. Well, we are shoring up our security and safety standards, as you know, from the vote on the weapons detection system. So that qualifying factor is also established. The project presents significant phasing or technical complexities or both, requiring the use of an integrated team of designers and constructors to solve project challenges during the design or pre-construction phase. That's absolutely the case. This project will have multiple designers. We'll have multiple architects, multiple engineers in order to facilitate the design of these projects and ensure that they're constructed properly. Also, from the construction side, while there's only one construction manager at risk, you may see multiple mechanical contractors, multiple general contractors in order to facilitate the project with a schedule that's this aggressive. And the last is the use of the alternative project delivery method will not encourage favoritism in awarding the public contract or substantially diminish competition for the public contract. And we'll talk about that now and how this procurement method works. And so that is the case. We obviously have to go through a very transparent process in construction management risk methodology. In this case, we're at the first step of that process. In order to be here today, we had to publicly advertise that we were going to come to the board and talk about this methodology and invite public comment. So that's the first step. So the first step is for the board to even approve this as a possibility for this methodology. The next step is that it's advertised for 15 days. And after that advertisement, then we can release an RFP, or request for proposal, for construction manager at risk services. Once that's been on the street for 3 to 4 weeks, we have a committee that will score on a rubrics and will narrow that group down from all of the responders to a group of 3 or 4 that are most able to satisfy the requirements of the project. And then those 3 or 4 candidates are interviewed by the committee and are scored yet again. At that time, the 3 in that group, or the 3 to 4 in that group, submit those responses to the state, And all of the fee structures that they're proposing are all evaluated by the state, and that's all sent back to the committee to evaluate as well. And then we come back to the board yet again for the approval of the CMAR contractor. And then we start the design work with the contractor and the designers building the project collaboratively. And then as each bid package is developed, we come back to the board yet again for each guaranteed maximum price to be approved by the board. And so the guaranteed maximum price just ensures that the pricing doesn't exceed the threshold established by the contractor. So that's kind of an overview, a very 10,000-foot view.
And so as you can see, you'll see this come back on the agenda several different times. So you won't say, well, why she keep bringing that back over and over again? Well, that's just part of what happens with this. And so we have some experts on the board with Julie and Diane. They'll keep us straight as well. So we appreciate you, Randy, for coming and sharing that information. He's smart, isn't he? Yeah, we like Randy. Tell Luke we missed him, but we liked you too. All right, we good? I think we're good. Yep. Thank you.
Hang on one second, Randy.
We got more questions?
Go ahead, Julie.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, this is kind of a unique delivery system. Typically, we do see the design produced first and then the bid and low bid brought to us for approval. But I agree with you, Randy, and your team that the uniqueness of this project does really lend itself to the construction manager at risk being a really good delivery system for this project. So I will be in support of this. You've clearly shown that you've met all of the required items, and I will be in voting in support of this. And I thank your team for the foresight in considering this unique process for this important project. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Randy, just for the public, you use the word CM, that means construction manager at risk. And I've noted, this is the second time we've used this. The first time was with the East Project. This is for a very large effort on our security upgrades. And so the trend is that the CM is, and I don't want to borrow somebody's insurance commercial, but is this kind of like a bundling effort so that we can expedite and get the projects going faster? Is that correct? But we still will see every single penny on their bids for each project.
Yes, to answer your question, yes. The intent is to bundle the projects to allow for more participation from various contractors and to ensure that we bring them back to the board for transparency. So in our typical process, if we did design build, like is our typical process, as Julie alluded to, we would have had to have developed small packages and bid them out each independently. And at some point, we would have saturated the market, and we wouldn't have been able to get quality bids anymore. And so we've already seen a little bit of that with ESSERS. We've been very careful about how we put out our ESSERS bid packages, because it's been a struggle for our mechanical contractors just to get those bids in. So we've gotten feedback from the community already that the Wichita workforce is nearing its max right now. So this allows us to do a very complicated, multifaceted, large project over a number of years. And the CMAR helps to ensure that it's standard and it's done repeatable and standard and ensures quality across multiple contractors performing that work.
Okay, thank you, Randy. I appreciate it. I move that the board authorize approval to proceed with the construction manager at-risk delivery method for security improvement projects at 48 sites.
Second.
Moved by Stan, seconded by Julie to approve C6. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. I believe that's the consent agenda then. Patrick, next item, please.
Next item, under operations, superintendent search. Oh. I believe actually the next item, it's policy.
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry. First review proposed updates to transportation policies.
The board does have the policy on the school trip and student transportation and private vehicles. This will not be a final, well, we won't even take a vote tonight. This is first reading. Does any board member have any questions, concerns, or suggestions of changes to this policy? Dr. Thompson, I don't believe there was any major adjustment to this other than a lot of different some wordsmithing that needed to be done on it? Okay. So without further ado, if there's not any questions or concerns, we'll move this forward to the second reading. Patrick, next item, please.
Next item under operations, superintendent search.
Thank you. If I believe if we could get Sean and maybe Wendy to come on down, especially Sean. That's up to. I'm sorry. That did not sound right. That is not what I meant. I had HR on my mind and. Yes. Let's.
You're in the hot seat.
Well, as the public knows, the announcement of Dr. Alicia Thompson's retirement at the end of this school year was announced on Thursday, I believe. And it is now the duty of this board to do the next superintendent search. And as we will have many months to express our gratitude to you, Dr. Thompson, for all you've done. But we also want to save some toward the end, so. I know. And then also, it's kind of like, let's not dwell on this too much, or we'll all break down and cry. But we do appreciate your years of service, and we wish you the very best in retirement. But we are also very excited that you're still our leader, our staff's leader till the end of the school year. Sean, what are some considerations that the board needs to consider tonight?
So first off, I'm Sean Hudspeth, Chief Human Resources Officer, and I'll let my colleague introduce herself.
Wendy Johnson, Division Director of Strategic Communications.
And Ms. Johnson and I have been tasked with this wonderful task of trying to fill these big shoes, and I don't know that we can do it, but we've got to. So again, that's my plug. Are you ready to stay? Change your mind? No. So what we've got and put in front of you all is that you have a timeline that is for consideration tonight. And if you would kindly review that timeline as a board and know what we have put together, you have several options to be able to consider through and some recommendations that have been made. One is how you would like to conduct the search moving forward. Would you like to conduct an internal-only search? Would you like to conduct an internal and external search? And then how would you like to proceed with the use of a third-party recruiting firm? So we do have one recommendation that has been made to all of you after we've narrowed that down. And so that proposal has been given and provided to all of you as to the search firm that we would recommend if that's the direction you so choose. Keeping in mind that we have engaged an individual with the Council of Great City Schools that is able to assist, but we also have spoken with this particular search firm, and they are all kind of able to do one and the same. So we feel like that your efforts don't need to be duplicated. If you want the assistance of the Council of Great City Schools, that's fine. We can do that, and we can schedule that board workshop for all of you later this month, prior to the Thanksgiving holiday, in order to help develop that superintendent profile. That's going to be an important key element, as you've heard us talk about the last couple of days since Dr. Thompson made her announcement. However, If you do not want to engage the Council of Great City Schools, then we ask that, if you want to utilize the search firm, then they will be able to do some of those same things. That does come at a cost that you would need to consider. There is a base cost plus travel and expenses that are also outlined in the proposal that has been given to each one of you.
Could you hit the highlights of the timeline?
Yes. So what we're looking at tonight is, obviously, we're discussing here to frame the process. We would actually ask tonight that you vote to approve the process for the search. We can visit about and discuss any questions that you all may have. And then we're going to ask staff to bring back questions for public input, as well as community groups that the BOE would meet with in the future. By the 21st, if we are at that point, we would either have a workshop with you and the Council of Great City Schools, or potentially with the consultants of the search firm. That would allow you to start developing and creating that profile, and then decide what community and stakeholder groups that you would want to meet with here in the very near future. As we get into December, we would be looking at, again, kind of questionnaires, community engagement approach, and then we get into the holidays, so we'll be out for winter break, but as soon as we return in January, we would want to make sure that that profile is solid, it's ready to go, and that profile, in essence, becomes the job description for the new superintendent, with changes that you would all recommend.
And it would be anticipated that in January, in order to help finalize that profile, we would have a very busy 3.5 weeks of community listening, whether it's facilitated by staff or by a consulting firm based upon the decisions that you would discuss tonight. That first 3 weeks or so in January is really the ideal time in order to get us past the holidays, to have that listening work, so that by your January Board of Education meeting, you can approve a profile that in essence becomes the job description for candidates considering the superintendent's work.
Yeah, Ernestine, go ahead.
I'd like to hear you say it again because I'm confused. Are you saying that we could probably have that if we decided on the hiring firm? What's it called? What'd you call it?
Consulting firm?
The consulting firm. We could have a meeting with them before Thanksgiving?
That is possible.
Okay, and if we wanted to use this expert from Great City Schools, we could also meet with that one then?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
So
To
either
start the
one we
process.
can do
Yeah.
before
Either one to start the process,
Before
yes.
Thanksgiving?
Yes.
Yes.
We put them both on notice.
Okay, I wanted to hear you say it before because I'm a little astounded.
No,
with it.
November 21st is a possible date. You may or may not choose to exercise that
right.
date, but that's what we have suggested as a possible date
What
to
day
have
of the
that
week is
first
that?
conversation.
That's Monday
That's
of
a
Thanksgiving
Monday.
week.
Right.
Oh, of course it would be.
Or we're having dinner at your house, one of the two.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I thought I heard that, and then it was like, really? That soon? Okay, thank you.
Kathy?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you're giving us a choice of an internal or an external search, correct? Now, if we decide to go with a search firm that's going to help us, will they search internally also?
So what they'll allow us to do is go through our internal search process. They won't interfere with our normal internal protocols and identifying candidates. But if you are satisfied with the internal candidate process and how many candidates might present itself through that mechanism, then they'll basically continue to guide you through the process that way.
And they will stop searching externally if we are satisfied with something internally?
Yeah, because they're not even going to go through the process of doing any kind of external advertising at an expense to the board that's outlined in your proposal, given that if you don't want to go that direction, you're happy with the internal candidates.
So the internal will come first no matter what?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And that's entirely your direction to staff to execute the process for you. If you tell staff you want an internal search and only then external if you
If
don't
nobody
find the best
is
possible
interested.
candidate.
Correct. Okay, I just wanted
Then
to
we
make sure
structure
that.
that way. If you say go external from the get-go, that can be done as well. It's your
So if
decision
we say
based
go
on
external
priorities.
from the get-go, there's still going to be an internal search.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Because that's the district's process for any opening.
And then back to the timeline, and then in February, we will actually do the interviews of the candidates.
Stan, I'm going to back up just
Yeah.
1 second. Cheryl, you raised your hand.
Go ahead.
You
and
sure?
answer the
Okay.
question first.
So then in January, we would actually then post the position
Okay.
internally and externally, if that's what you so choose. Then by February, we would be conducting interviews. And even though if you hire a consultant, myself and members of my team will still be there to support you entirely through this process, through the question development phase, the formatting, how we will conduct those interviews and move forward. So then at the end of the timeline, the plan or the goal is that we would like to be able to have completed the interviews. You all have made a final selection and a hiring decision so that we can announce that by spring break of 2023.
Cheryl?
Yeah, I think she was.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure for us, so that we're all clear. Tonight, the decisions we need to make are internal or external.
Correct.
Correct.
And it doesn't mean if we decide internal that we can't do external.
Right.
But we start internal and then move to external if that's what we decide. So it's
Yes.
internal, external decision. Second decision is, do we use an outside firm and/or do we use Michael Casterly from the Council of Great City Schools?
That is correct.
The third decision is we approve this process that you've laid out, the timeline kind of piece. And then if we do those three things, then it all starts to roll. So tonight, are there any other major decisions you need from the board in order to begin the process?
No,
No.
just
So
those two.
internal, external, whether you use an outside firm or Mike Casserly, and then approve the process for everything else, the timeline piece.
Correct. And this timeline can be adjusted accordingly, but this is the best that we have to offer right now in terms of.
And I think this is very similar to what we did when we hired Dr.
is.
Thompson, is it not? Yeah.
I can't answer that one.
I'm sure it is. I was there.
But Wendy can, yes.
Julie?
Yeah, I'm just asking for clarification because what I thought I heard you say to Kathy I didn't understand totally. Okay, if we say internal, and all we want is internal, all we're getting is internal. But if we do internal and we can't find anybody, then we can move to external.
Correct.
Okay. If we say external from the get-go, then we will advertise for internal and for external at the same time.
Not necessarily.
Okay, so if we say we want external, we'd advertise for internal first.
Correct.
And then if we're satisfied with internal, then we could change our mind and say we don't need external after all.
Correct. But you would just either have the support of Mr. Casserly, or you would have the support of the consulting firm, the search firm that we have proposed to you. And they don't care whether you use, do internal, external. They're there to support you throughout the process.
Okay, and is somebody gonna like make a motion and then we're gonna vote, or, okay, you got questions?
Yeah, Ms. Stabler.
Hazel?
Yes, I understand this is an extensive process. And I was wondering if you could explain to us the pros and cons of hiring an outside firm as opposed to us doing it as a board.
As we look at each other, who wants to go first?
The listening process, the listening part of the process, which is significant in order to assure that you all seek feedback from your stakeholders, is time intensive. There are resources involved, human resources involved in the collection of feedback, the analysis, and so on. The time required for you all to lead, attend, coordinate, manage, if the search is done by staff with the support of Dr. Casserly, is potentially significant in a very compact period of time. pros and cons to that, but the flip side of that coin would be a consulting firm could do much of that work and alleviate some of that time consideration for all of you. They could provide an impartial and unbiased third-party lens through which the feedback could be analyzed. The last time the district did a search, the online collection of feedback was supported by the Kansas Association of School Boards. So there was a third party that supported a piece of that work. And of course, Dr. Casserly supported a piece of that work through his support in developing the superintendent's profile, which became the job description. There were pieces that additional partners supported in comparison to selecting a firm that would handle the gamut of the process for you.
So I understand that it's very labor intense, and we probably, I'm in favor of an outside, hiring an outside source, but if we did do that, I'm interested to know the cost and how we would pay for that.
So in your proposal that I have given to each one of you, on page 13 is the estimated cost sheet from the consulting firm to Wichita Public Schools. It does carry a base fee of $34,000 to be able to engage this process. There are additional travel costs estimated at around $5,000. Some printing, shipping, and otherwise miscellaneous, what I would call mail or FedEx charges of around $500. And then if you do external advertising to solicit candidates to apply, they estimate those fees to be around $1,500 to be able to advertise and attract quality candidates. So back to your question, Julie, if you're satisfied with the internal candidates, that's an expense that you would not incur with the consulting firm. But it is built into the proposal, so best estimate right now looks to be $41,000 is what that would be. And somebody told me earlier today that that's like 0.0008 of some big total budget number. So it's a very small fraction of a cost to be able to consider. But I appreciate Wendy's input because I was not employed by the district during our last superintendent search. And while I have no doubts that my team could handle it, the timing of the year and the fact that we would be entering into our negotiations with our unions and everything else at that time, it could be a little time consuming. And I just want to make sure that we keep this moving along to the best of the district's interest.
Thank
I have
you.
a question.
Yes, Kathy?
Is it time intensified also if it's an internal search?
It is, but not to the degree that, you know, having the consulting firm is really going to help all of us kind of keep it moving along. But we're used to doing a lot of internal searches. So again, that's not so bad if we didn't have a consultant. But my recommendation is that we should.
I would say that part of the time intensiveness in the process is listening to stakeholders, internal stakeholders, teachers, staff, other employees, students, as well as parents, business community, and others, to understand, understand what the qualities, characteristics, and the vision is for the next leader.
I just want to make sure that our employees are offered to apply for this position before an external search is made.
Yeah, that's how our system is set up.
Okay.
So we would post the position internally
Okay.
before an external link would be available.
I just needed that reassurance.
Yeah, no
Thank
problem.
you.
Diane?
Yeah, so the way I understand this is if we hire an outside firm, that this is giving us a framework and like you said, a way to keep this process rolling instead of relying on either individual board members or some board members and then staff as well who, like you said, are going to be heading into negotiations and other things that are busy throughout the year. So the outside firm is really just to keep everything going. They understand the process. It says on the packet that they're going to meet with the board to set timelines, finalize procedures and services desired, discuss the application process, select advertising campaign, and determine different things. So, and then they're also going to help with profile development, recruiting and screening, candidate presentation, selection of a finalist, and future planning. So they kind of have a framework and a process already lined out, and they just kind of help us through each of those steps.
That is correct. And Ms. Albert's on page 6 of the proposal.
Good job.
All right.
Can you also tell me who all else has used this firm as well?
One of the questions that I asked when I contacted them initially and was trying to get a proposal confidentially, of course, is I was told that they have handled several large school district searches in and around the area, primarily in the Kansas City and the metro area, but I understand that they have done in past years 2 recent superintendent searches at suburban school districts within Wichita's realm.
Okay.
So again, this is a firm that through a lot of different, I wouldn't say I didn't ask them for professional references, but other word of mouth and people that are known, this is the one that came highly recommended. We did vet some other search firms, but this is the one we feel like would be in our best interest moving forward.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Cheryl?
I just want to discuss the options, because we can use the search firm, the Ray and Associates, or we can use Mike Casserly and then use KASB. Is that who helps with the compiling of the information? Who did we use last time?
We used KASB to support part of that work. We used district staff to support part of that work.
Yeah, but we did bring in KASB.
We did, to help collect external
So it would
feedback.
be a combination of the assistance through Council of Great City Schools and the KASB that would give us some support as we're moving through this.
Do we know that KASB would be willing to offer that service now? I know they're
They
kind of over.
I believe they would. I will tell you, Ms. Hedrick, that KASB dropped off a proposal to my office today while I was in meetings all day, and so I haven't had a chance to thoroughly review it. So I think what we're looking at here is that if we went with Mr. Casserly and the Council of Great City Schools, that would be more of a partnership, perhaps with some guidance from KASB, rather than dealing with the consulting firm.
Got it.
I don't know. I think there would be a little bit of an overlap, at least in my opinion, if we used the consulting firm with KASB.
Yes, there would
Oh, I
be
don't think we
overlap
do-
on
Yeah.
I
the
don't think
development
I
of the
think
profile.
it's Ray and Associates and/or Casserly and KASB.
That is correct.
I think those are our two choices.
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Kathy, did you have one other question
I'm
before
sorry,
Cheryl went?
yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I have a motion too. I was going to move that we adopt this outline on the timeline with the understanding that this is early in the process and we may have to make a few adjustments here and there, and that we start with an internal search and that we direct HR to hire a executive search company that fits our needs for this school district, for this search.
I would second that.
Okay, I have a question to clarify.
Yes.
The last part of your motion where you're directing HR to hire a firm, are you talking about the outside search firm?
Yeah,
Ray
so
and
we're going,
Associates?
instead of Casserly and KSB, we're going the outside.
Okay.
And
If
in
this
that,
goes-
would you please name the firm that's on there? So that way.
Yeah, because it was not clear
yeah.
in the motion. If you just say Ray and Associates.
Yes.
I was going to leave that flexibility because just in case any last second developments come up. But
Okay.
But if you would, I prefer, I'll amend my motion to include Ray and Associates,
If possible.
if possible.
Wonderful, thank you.
And I will second that
With the amendment?
with the amendment.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think we have a motion on the floor then. Any other discussion?
Should we block our calendars for the 21st?
Yes, I would still keep the 21st, on your calendar, but it's very possible we may not need it.
And block all of January.
The schedule first.
Yeah, don't do anything in January, please.
Right.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you all.
I agree. I think we still keep, this board still needs to keep November 21st kind of open because we may need to be meeting with Ray and Associates by then. Correct. Okay. Or there may be another part of this whole process that we'll need to do in a workshop or something. But I think we've got the process started tonight, and we appreciate your help on this.
Great. Thank you.
We'll
Appreciate
be
your
in touch soon with
flexibility.
next steps.
All right,
Hooray.
thank you.
Hooray for us.
I wasn't going to go that far. Hooray for
Well, maybe pray for us too, but I said hooray for us that we got the process started. And yes, pray for us that we got the process, yes. All of the above, yes.
Patrick, next item, please.
Next item, under Operations, 2022-23 Enrollment Update.
Dr. Thompson?
Awesome. We're going to start out just a little bit talking about our official enrollment, kind of giving an update of that. And then we're going to use this, this information to kind of take us into spaces where we've talked about in the past about a demographic study, demography study, which will lead us then to further conversations that will help us with not just Southeast, but a whole look of the entire district. And so I'll turn it over to my colleagues so that they can talk us through and give us some recommendations. Thank you.
Dun, dun, dun.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. President Reeser, members of the board, we're back. Gil Alvarez, Deputy Superintendent, with my sidekick over here, Fabian Armendariz, Division Director of Operations.
We're both A last time, so I thought maybe we could call ourselves double
It's
A or
called
something like
onesie.
that.
It's called, we call them onesie and twosie.
Well, you heard us earlier present around short-term solutions, and thank you for your vote to allow for next school year that boundary to be moved from Southeast to Heights to help the overcrowding. This presentation is going to give you some background information, specifically looking at more of a long-term solution. So we're going to be taking you through a little bit of an official enrollment update. Our objectives for this evening is going to be to introduce the Enrollment and Program Assignments Committee, also known as EPAC. And this particular committee is going to be a group of our district leaders to make sure that we are monitoring enrollment trends, also looking at programs as we move some things across our district. The next objective is review annual enrollment review processes. We're also going to share highlights from the 22-23 official enrollment report, so you're going to get some information there. And we're also going to discuss the need for a demography study or a demographic study, however you want to say that. So just to start with the EPAC, our Enrollment and Program Assignments Committee. This is composed of district leadership teams, so the majority of members from the district leadership team, we meet monthly, and we started in October after official enrollment on September 20th. And really, we say we meet monthly, but it just seems recently we have been meeting every other week or bi-weekly, just due to the conversation that we've been having around the overcrowding in Southeast, since that was a major topic for us. So we have been meeting, had a little more frequent cadence in our meetings there. Our initial meetings focus on annual enrollment numbers to identify any areas of concern. And then we also, subsequent meetings focus on student assignment, program placements, and impact on enrollment. And these placements include special education, ELL, early childhood, just to name a few. So any programming change proposals are funneled through our EPAC for approval. So these proposals, like a special education move or program move or ELL newcomer moves or any type of ESOL program changes, early childhood, we have these because we don't want a decision then where other departments then afterwards say, wait a minute, I didn't know this program was going to move there. You need extra outlets or extra technology or maybe even some facilities needs that we did not discuss as we know that these programs are moving. So this particular team really focuses in on what moves across our district are needed, what program moves, and then what are some things that are going to be needed with that move. It could be renovations, it could be facilities needs, technology needs, a whole bunch of different things that happen. So we're working together to make sure that we have the entire picture before that move is done, so nobody's left behind. End of the year meetings also focus on anticipated enrollment for the following school year. This is where we really started having the conversation around Southeast last year. So when we see these enrollment trends, we start to have discussions around, okay, what are some possible needs in the future, because we're starting to see something happening within our district. So that's another use of this EPAC team, and allow district leadership to strategically assess impact of programming changes to all areas are the things for our EPAC group to really discuss and look into. So what is official enrollment? Our official enrollment is we call it the count day on September 20th. And this is taken on September 20th, but we also know that there's times if a student is absent on September 20th, we can look before that particular date and after to make sure that they are present so we can count them. So this is for district funding. This is how we determine our district funding. So it's important, is why we always talk about we want our students to be here on September 20th, because it definitely helps us as a district. The information that you're going to see today, as well as we pull from our student information system, which is called Synergy. This provides data for enrollment trends in schools. This is where we're going to look at some of the data that you're going to see here in just a little bit. So we're going to use the data to guide, we use this data to guide in decision-making throughout the year and help identify other specific needs around our district. So let's look at a little bit of a snapshot of the 22-23 enrollment, starting with our high schools. In our high schools, we're sitting at around 13,000, so 13,003 to be exact, which is actually one of the higher numbers that we've had seen in our high schools. Was that in a while, 20 years?
20 years.
20 years. So that's a high number. Our middle schools, we're sitting at 10,000. Unfortunately, that's a little lower than we would hope, but we're going to show you the trends here in a minute as well. And then our elementaries at 21,965, with our special schools and other schools sitting at 2,466. So that's our enrollment snapshot specifically for this particular school year. Now looking at grade level distributions for the 22-23 school year. These are our total students in the Wichita Public Schools, starting with at the far left of that bar graph is kindergarten all the way to the end of 12th grade. As you can see, it fluctuates as we go through each particular grade, but you're going to notice a grade level that is a lot higher than the rest. And this is our 9th grade. So you can see that our 9th grade are over the 3,600 mark across our district at this particular point in time. So we know with our EPAC group that we say, okay, as those 9th graders start to move throughout our system, we're going to see a higher enrollment as they go through, which will be good because we want to make sure that enrollment stays there, because now that they're 9th graders, each one of those 9th graders matters when it comes to graduation rate too. So for all our schools out there too, we want to make sure that those 9th graders are on track to graduate as they're making their way through. And our enrollment demographic snapshot, you can see our Hispanic students are at 37%, make up our district demographics enrollment is 37%. Our whites, non-Hispanic, are 30%. Our African American students are 19%. And our 2 or more races is 8%, Asians are 5%, and then we have our American Indian and Alaskan Natives at 1% is the demographic makeup of our district. Now we're going to look at some 10-year Wichita Public Schools enrollment trends. I'm going to turn over to Fabian to take us through that 10-year trends.
So as you look at this particular chart, that is our enrollment over the last 10 years. Really, our peak year was in 2014. Our enrollment was the highest it's been in decades at that point. We went up to 51,330 students. Since then, we've dropped 3,813 students as you compare that number to where we are in 2022. That decline really began around 2017, which is the reason why in 2019 we came to this board and requested a demography study. So we had that demography study done, I think around 2018, 2019, and out of that demography study was the birth of EPAC. EPAC grew out of that because we understood at that point that we needed to start looking into the longer term and strategic decisions through the direction of Dr. Thompson. We started meeting regularly to look at enrollment trends and continue to assess our capacities, because part of that study gave us the capacities. But again, as you can see, we've experienced significant decreases, especially as you look at 2020. That was our COVID year, and that's the year where the enrollment declined significantly. I will clarify for our community and everyone that looks at these numbers that those numbers are not unique to the Wichita Public Schools. If you look at the news nationwide, if you look, every single district in our country experienced enrollment declines, and really large urban school districts and most school districts still haven't recovered from the declines that we experienced at that point. So now I'm going to take you through the trends of our 10-year enrollment. As Mr. Alvarez mentioned, again, 2022 represents the highest number for high school enrollment in decades. And that number is significant as you look at that trend. But as you saw the chart earlier, when you look at that 9th grade being our highest class, that explains why. So that gives you a little picture and a snapshot, but once those students funnel through the system, odds are that those numbers are gonna lower. Some of the highlights in terms of the trends, increased enrollment since 2012 for our high schools is 664 students. So we have 664 more students than we did in 2012. That represents about a 5.38 increase. It is the only attendance level in our system that is currently experiencing growth. As I walk you through the middle school and the elementaries, you're gonna start seeing declines there. Every single high school, as I compared enrollment from now to 2012, experienced growth except for one school. So we only had one high school that declined. One school, one high school. It was Heights. Heights is the only school. And again, when you talk about the decision that we made tonight to transition those kids, it makes sense, as they really are the only school that has lower enrollment now than they did in 2012, from our high schools at least. And again, this year represents the highest number of enrollment for our high schools.
Would you give us that number?
For
Our total enrollment this year?
I
think you gave it to me this afternoon.
47,517, if I remember.
519, that Wendy told us this afternoon.
Yeah, I have the data in my, so I can get it back to you. I promise. I should know this, but I've flown through a lot of numbers over the last couple of weeks. So, yep, got it. As we look at our middle schools, our trends have been a little bit up and then a little bit down. Our peak really came in 2019. That's, as you can see through the chart. And then since 2019, we have begun to experience enrollment declines at that level. As you compare 2022 to 2012 from our middle school standpoint, we've dropped about 144 students. That's about a 1.41% decrease. Only 6 of our 13 middle schools have experienced enrollment increases in the last 10 years. And since 2019, which was our highest year of enrollment, we've lost about 645 students in our middle school. That represents a loss of about 6.4%. Our elementaries is where the difference becomes significant. And as you can see, 2015 was really our highest year when it comes to enrollment at the elementary level. I do want to clarify and explain, as we discussed this morning, around 2016, 2017, the state expanded funding for kindergarten. Where in the past, they only funded half-day kindergarten, we as a system made the commitment many years prior to that to invest in all-day kindergarten. And because of that, our enrollment numbers benefited from that. So we tended to see more students from our suburbs come into our schools because they wanted all-day kindergarten. And once they experienced our schools, they stayed with us. And so we saw them stay with us through the system. Well, once that decision was made around 2016, 2017, as you can see, it kind of correlates with the enrollment declines that we're seeing at the elementary level. Our biggest drop was between 2019 and 2020. Again, that correlates with COVID and the COVID declines that we saw. But there is no question, part of the reason we requested that demography study 2018, 2019 was because we were starting to see those declines. And when we received the report from the prior demography study, their reports were that we were going to continue to see enrollment declines. Obviously, COVID drastically changed that. And that is part of the reason why we are here today in some ways.
Dr. Thompson.
And it's kind of interesting too, if you start reading some of the studies across the country, birth rates are also down. And so as we think about recovery, there would be little hope or little thought that we would increase any further than where we are because of the low birth rates. So that's another consideration that we also need to take into consideration. And I know the demography study will also help us with that.
So some highlights or trends over the last 10 years. First, our enrollment has decreased about 3,940 students at the elementary level, so almost 4,000 students, 15.2% since 2012. Only 4 out of our 57 elementary schools have experienced any sort of enrollment increases since 2012. And since COVID, which was when we saw a significant drop in our elementary numbers, during that COVID impact year, we saw a decrease of 2,379 students. So it was almost an 11% decrease that particular COVID year. Now, as we talk about enrollment, it is important to know that we have a very complicated student assignment system. And because of that, a lot of our families not only have choice, and we pride ourselves on being a district of choice, but also we also internally make some moves in terms of assignments for students for a variety of reasons. And so in order for us to look at the numbers, another thing that complicates it is our neighborhood versus non-neighborhood enrollment. I labeled it earlier as a reside versus reside and attend. Neighborhood enrollment would be your reside and attend, and then your reside is what we call neighborhood enrollment. I crunched the numbers over the weekend, cleaned up a lot of data, but figured out through that entire process that out of K-12, because those are the kids that we assign to their neighborhood schools to start with, roughly 70.1% of our students are choosing to stay in their neighborhood. So again, 7 out of 10 students are enrolled in our neighborhood schools. As far as those in terms of elementary, middle, and high, elementary, about 67.4% of our students are choosing to stay in their neighborhood schools, 66% of our middle schools, and 77.1% of our high schools. And we would probably assume that the reason why that high school number is higher is because there's less choices. We really only have one high school at that level. The interesting part is, as you analyze those within each one of those levels, the trends are interesting, ranging from one school keeping about 46% of their kids, and then the school that's keeping the majority of their kids is keeping about 87% of their kids. And it's not necessarily the students or the schools that you would assume. Some of them are our highest need schools, where you look at neighborhood assignments, or maybe parents don't understand the choices that we offer, and so they are not applying for some of those choices. But even within those numbers, because it's the first time that I've really pulled them and really looked at them in great detail like that, it was really surprising to me as we looked. But again, another factor to consider, and another reason why I think a demography study is important, because this is another piece that complicates it. It's not just looking at the total number of kids that live in the neighborhood. You also have to take into account that not all the kids that live in the neighborhood are going to attend that school. And so what's that loss factor when you're looking at projections and looking into the future? So just to give you an idea, because some parents or some people, community members may wonder, well, why are 30% of their kids not staying in their neighborhood school? Is because of the complicated student assignment and the choices that many of our families make. So as you look at those numbers, we have neighborhood assignments, so those are the kids that are attending their neighborhood schools. We have families that are choosing to attend magnet schools, and we have about 12.7% of our enrollment that is choosing to attend our magnet schools. We have IB, pre-IB, and early college academy, special education, and although about 17% of our students are categorized as special education, not all of them are reassigned. We serve a lot of our interrelated students in their neighborhood schools. So really the students that we are reassigned to other schools are primarily our categorical and special program students. We also have ELL assignments and newcomers and ESOL students represent about 15% of our students too. So that's another demographic. We serve a lot of them in their neighborhood schools, but we also move a lot of neighborhood students because we want to serve them somewhere else, especially our newcomer students, because we don't have newcomers programs in every single one of our schools. We have special transfers. That's another element of choice. And traditionally, that number has hovered around 1,000 students that choose to take advantage of a special transfer and attend a different school. We have special programs, as we listed a variety of special programs, especially at our high school level, from EIA to Accelerated Academy. There's other choices and other assignments that we provide. And then the last piece is students in transition. Those are your McKinney-Vento homeless students, as well as your ESSA, which are your foster care students. And those students, we are required by law to allow them to stay at their school of origin, and so we transport them to their school of origin. So that further complicates a lot of our student assignments. And because of the high needs in our community, we've seen that number gradually increase over the last few years. Which leads us to the question, as if the data doesn't paint it in itself, what are the reasons for a demography study? First, we feel the timing is right. We were apprehensive to do a demography study in prior years in the post-COVID environment because we weren't sure that our enrollment had stabilized enough for us to get an accurate picture into the future. We feel that now, after the last 2 years of stability, that there's enough there for us to be able to have enough data for us to really glimpse into the future. Again, the other piece is recent enrollment shifts have created imbalances in school enrollment. And you saw that at Southeast, that growth that we're experiencing in the east side of the city. And that's something else to consider. A lot of families don't realize that we have enough seats in our schools for the kids that we have. We have enough seats even with the growth at the high school for all of our high school students. The challenge is that the seats that we have available are on the opposite side of the city. And so we would need to impact every single school along the way for us to get students to that. And that, again, involves a lot of study, and we really need detailed projections into doing that. We need to align the work of right-sizing our schools with a facility analysis condition. Luke Newman, our Division Director of Facilities, has spoken to you about the facilities condition analysis that SHEF is doing, and we want to align the work that's happening there with the enrollment trends that we're seeing so that we can make some long-term decisions for our entire system. And then the last piece is our goal, if this item is approved tonight, is to do an RFP. And so we're going to be doing a request for proposal. We've used RSP and Associates in the past to conduct this work. We felt that a lot of things have shifted over the years, and we wanted to go back and determine if there are other firms out there. So the way that we built the RFP is to include options as a menu. So we're building it for menu options for a demographic analysis, for them to give us projections, for them to give us a boundary analysis, and an option for a boundary facilitation process. Again,
What was that for a boundary, what?
boundary facilitation process, so that they can lead us through a boundary change if the numbers dictate that. But in order to do that, we need the first part, which is the enrollment trends and projections. And then from there, we can make the decision and bring it to you if a boundary change is needed. We all can surmise based on the numbers that we're seeing, again, but we need that crystal ball, as my good friend Wendy Johnson calls it, to look into the future and be able to determine if that's the avenue we want to go. And we need that information for us to make those longer-term decisions. Yes, do we take questions now, or do you want to wait till the end? So.
Go ahead, Hazel.
Yes, when was the last demographic? Did you say 2017?
2018, I believe, is when
2018?
we brought the proposal. Most of the data came, I think, in 2019, I believe. And we still have that data, but again, with the significant declines that we experienced with COVID, those numbers are kind of rendered obsolete because they're no longer reflective of what the anticipated.
So what is a typical turnaround time? I mean, how often do districts usually do demographic?
Last time we did it was for our boundary change. It varies by school systems. Typically, you know, again, and that's part of what EPAC, our hope is that we can continue to analyze enrollment trends and then make the determination as we're starting to see things shift to be able to bring recommendations for these demographic analysis. It varies. I mean, every district does it a little bit different.
And the
but-
I'm sorry, the company that you're. the company that you're proposing? Is it this company that did the last one? Or is
We,
this a new?
we are not, we're
are
not
you-
proposing a company as of right now, and the recommendation that you'll see, which I can show you right now, is really just to give us the go-ahead to move forward with the process. We're gonna do an RFP, and we're gonna get those proposals back from different firms. EPAC, which is the group that Mr. Alvarez shared with you earlier, will be the group that will see those interviews, and then they will, that group will help us make the final selection with the intent for us to bring the actual company, the name of the company, and an approval consent item for you in January with the actual name of the firm.
Okay.
But we felt it was important for us to bring you this item now, because once that RFP goes out, some people are gonna notice, and it might come to you, and so we wanna prepare not only you, but the community that we are looking at this process.
Thank you.
And I apologize for interrupting you. I was trying to get a couple people in to talk.
And I
but-
want to comment to Ms. Stabler's question. In most larger urban school settings, they have departments that actually do this year-round and keep up with all of this on a normal basis. So they don't have to have a firm. We have chosen, we've talked about that several times, but we've chosen not to do that, to be frugal with the funds. So when we do need to have it, we felt like then it would be the time to get someone instead of having a salaried group, because it wouldn't just be one, it'd be a group of people that would work and keep this fresh and ongoing. And we didn't think it was that important for us to spend money to do that. So I just wanted to make it clear that urban school settings, schools usually have a division that does, a department that does that. We chose not to. So that's why ours would look a little different. He really couldn't answer your question because that's what usually happens.
And I will say that the districts that have those demography departments also make boundary changes every year. And so those communities are used to being shifted and moved regularly where our community is not. And that's part of the reason is investing in a position like that would only be beneficial if we were willing to make those moves on a regular basis.
Cheryl?
Yes, thank you for your report. And we're roughly 5 years out from the last demography study. And several things have changed within our district in that 5-year period, including the decline in enrollment. But we've also had population shifts a little bit in the district. So I think this is the time for us to begin to be forward-looking, put together a demography study. Then we can make the right decisions down the road on what we do with boundaries and everything else. So I'm very much in favor of us doing it. I think it's the right time.
Diane?
How far out do they project? Is this a 5-year projection? Is it a 10-year? What are we talking?
Typically, they give us about a 5-year projection is what we've received in the past.
Okay, and how accurate typically are these types of studies?
Our experience has been, they've been significant enough for us to make decisions. Again, this last go around because of COVID, I can't tell you the long-term test, but in the past, I mean, we've used them to make long-term decisions. As complicated as our system is in some of those pieces, they're not gonna be 100% accurate. But their formula is complicated enough to give us some good data into the future. That includes birth rates, it includes the number of plotted lots within, they look at our prior enrollment. And that is one of those pieces that I'm concerned about, and as we do the RFP interviews, I'm going to ask. Because in the past, typically they request 5 years of enrollment trends for them to build the projections, where really in reality right now we only have 2. Because I think anything pre-COVID, those numbers are so vastly different that I don't know that you can rely on them to make a lot. So I think that's gonna be a key question for us as we go through this process, is understanding how are you gonna make up for the loss of data for those pre-COVID years in some ways too. So those are things that as our wheels churn, we're thinking about also.
And about how long does a study like this take to complete?
Typically, it's a process of months. It depends on which portions of that menu we want. I think the first pieces that we really are going to be looking at are the boundary demographic study, the projections, because those are the key pieces that we need first. And then once those come back to us, then we can determine, do we need a boundary facilitation process, and we'll bring you that forward. I anticipate this coming sometime late spring, early summer, with the first report that will allow us to make decisions for, again, the next school year, because that could potentially kick off, provided the numbers in the projections say it, a boundary facilitation process at that point.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Do we need a motion?
Yeah.
Since it's a recommendation, yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation that the BOE does support the work to seek a demographic consultant that will evaluate future population projections and community growth.
A second.
There's a motion on the floor by Julie, seconded by Cheryl. That's correct, yes. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
We're almost done.
Patrick, next item, please.
Next item, under miscellaneous, superintendent's report.
Dr. Thompson?
Yes, I do have a report this evening. I just want to talk about some of the cool things that are happening in the Wichita Public Schools that have happened over the last week, and to tell you how wonderful that your school district is. The first thing is that we had Super SAC dialogue last week with more than 100 high school students who came to share feedback with the district about Graduation Plus and being future ready. And I'd like to thank Ms. Hazel and Kathy for showing up at that event. We appreciate you. And as Wendy said, the East High and Adams Elementary were absolutely amazing on Friday. We had Leadership Wichita, and if you don't know what that is, it is a premier program with the Chamber of Commerce. And it was a privilege to have all of our business leaders and community folks inside of our schools to show them all the cool things that happened. They were all dressed up in their college or their favorite school shirts. I think we next time need to have them have WPS shirts, and we can just put it on them because many of them were our graduates that are in that particular program, and they were WPS proud. So we need to get them some shirts next time. So we also would like to congratulate Northwest Grizzlies. I know Kathy will be over there cheering. Last Friday night, they punched their ticket because they are going to be in the 6A state football championship tournament. They beat Junction City here at home, so we're going to be cheering them on. So they will travel on this Friday to play Manhattan in the next round of the tournament. So go Grizzlies. Yes. Thank you, Kathy. I was waiting on you to help me. 40 staff at AMAC on Saturday were volunteer training for the post-secondary transition for students with disabilities. So we'd like to congratulate them on their voluntary training for that. So thank you, staff, for doing that. I'd also like to thank all of the Wichita Rotary Club members who have been in our schools for the Reading is Fundamental program in our Title I schools, which brings our community leaders in. They read to our students, and then they get books to take home with them. So thank you to our Rotary, Wichita Rotary Club here in Wichita. And finally, I'd like to thank Dr. Randy Watson, the Commissioner of Education, for visiting Coleman Middle School today. He came to visit. I thought it was pretty cool. He was a volleyball coach of one of our teachers in our school district, and she invited him to come. And of course, she's retiring this school term, so he showed up and was able to tour our wonderful facility and then to visit one of his former students. So there's also a lot of things that are happening this fall, so I'm going to kind of go through some of those things, and you can put these things on your calendar, so get your pencils out and ready to write. The state football championship is ahead, which we talked about. Our annual United Methodist Open Door Turkey and Food Drive is on November the 18th. And typically we have turkey dressing people that dress like turkeys and all kinds of things that happen on that day. So if you'd like to join us, we'll send out information further, and it'll be on our websites and on our social media channels as well. Youth mental health first aid training is at the end of the month. The McCormick Holiday Open House is on December the 2nd, if any of you are interested in going over to McCormick and celebrating. The return of our Good Apple Recognition celebrations is on Monday, December the 5th, so we're really excited to bring that back. And there's so many other things, but I'll stop there because when the December comes, you know what happens, right? And even with November, you guys are going to get all kinds of invitations to come and eat turkey and see all of the cool things that are happening in the schools. So we'll keep you all abreast of all those things. And then in December, it's just as busy. So put your hat on because it's ready. We're getting ready to roll. This is a busy time of the year. So we're very, very proud of this district and what it does to support our students to be future ready. And with that, Mr. President, I return back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. November and December are exciting months, but they are crazy busy, but it's very fun. Patrick, next item, please.
Next item, Board of Education report and requests.
I think this time I'll start. You're in Hazel, if that's okay, if you have any reports or requests.
I actually have a good list here.
Go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to say that I attended the Indian Education Parent Meeting, and I'd also would like to note that November is Native American Heritage Month, and I would like to remind everybody about that. I attended the Kansas Economic Conference, and I read in the newspaper about our girl volleyball teams, and so I went to Derby to an invitational tournament and was able to watch Northwest, South, and Southeast play, and that was a good day. In honor of National School Lunch Week, I was able to attend lunch at Meade Middle School and celebrating the nutrition service. We're celebrating the work that they do to feed our students, and that was a great opportunity to meet with other community leaders and have lunch with students. I attended a celebration for Hispanic Heritage Month at Cowley Community College, where Northeast Magnet JROTC was color guard. That was a nice evening. I had a tour of the Wichita Learning Center at Town East, and I had a great tour from Maria, Lee, and Ruth. That was a nice facility. I attended a football game, which was really very impressive at the Windsurge Stadium. It was kind of neat to go in there and see a baseball field turn into a football field, and I think Northwest and West High played. Northwest won. I was able to go to Riverside Elementary Family Fun Night, and there was a huge community support there. It was really a nice night, and I got to see a dance. I think it was the staff that did a dance from Thriller. It was like zombies. They did a really nice dance. I attended the Bandorama at South High School, featuring our high school marching bands. It was a little bit chilly. We were kind of shriveling. It was a nice evening. I also was able to go to the high school orchestra showcase at Southeast High School. I also attended the Super SAC with the students, and I was very impressed how articulate they are and expressing their thoughts. And I just say you can't judge a book by the cover, because you just don't know what these kids are thinking, and they're very bright and very well spoken. I went to the Choral Invitational at Northeast Magnet, and Saturday I attended an 8 to Great training session at North High. It was a seminar that was led by Patty Stever, and she is the student leadership coordinator. She's a motivational speaker who talks about the powerful process for positive change, and I was happy to see that this program has also been implemented into our middle schools, and it's a very good, uplifting program. Lastly, I would like to say that I was fortunate to attend the Council of Great City Schools in Orlando, Florida conference, where I realized when I got there that we had a great representation of our staff, and I realized among all of the urban schools in the United States how well respected Wichita Public Schools are. I was encouraged to attend the sessions that our school provided. The people who were there was Rob Dixon and his team, Diane, and I'm gonna kill her last name, Smoker, Diane, Wendy Johnson, Maria Curry, Susan Arnsman, and then there was a team of teachers, a husband and wife, Kyle and Caitlin Schoenhofer, who gave a great presentation on esports. And with that, I would like to say that, well, one other thing before I go there. I would like to say that, you know, you think I think we get a bad rap because we are an urban school and we're very unique in our state. But going to this conference and being around other urban schools, I see that we are very fortunate and we're very far ahead of other schools in in our initiatives, and thankful to Dr. Thompson and our administration for the initiatives that they've taken to put us in that position. And as I said, the representation that we took to Florida was very impressive. I know we went around the room and introduced ourselves, and it was wonderful to hear Wichita Public Schools. So that I was very proud of that. So in saying that, I had a very, I did not have an understanding of what esports entailed. And Kyle and Caitlin gave a wonderful presentation, and from that, I'm going to request that they give a presentation to the board on esports and the value that they have to our students, because I had a totally different opinion of esports before their presentation. I think it's really important that our community hear what this entails and the benefits to our students. And with that, I'm finished.
Thank you, Hazel. Cheryl.
My goodness, that makes me tired just to listen to that. I was impressed with the lunch at Meade, with the National Lunch Program, and how many of our community people came to share the lunch with the students, but also to just kind of give us an opportunity to show them the good things that are going on. I think that's, anytime we can get community members into our buildings, that's a good thing. All of us have been to community meetings with the Southeast Peace, and I've learned a lot, and I appreciate the effort that our staff put in on those. We had many people at those meetings to facilitate the groups and so on. So I really wanted to put a shout out to our staff for all the help that they've done with those. This is the season when a lot of our high schools, in fact, probably most of our high schools, begin to put on concerts, and they're in the elementaries as well. If you have a particular school that you're interested in, go onto their webpage. They're having their fall plays now, and they're really inexpensive, if not free. And it is a great time to get out and see what's happening in our buildings. You'll be impressed. So please take a few minutes to attend some of the, we've got the orchestra and the band coming up with their big concerts, and you know, there's all kinds of things going on in November and December. So choose a school, any school, go onto their website, find out what they're doing, and try to attend. It's a great opportunity. Lastly, last week we had the sad note of accepting the resignation of our superintendent, and I just wanted to say publicly, you have been an absolutely outstanding superintendent for us. I know you're not done, and so we're not going to act like you're done. But we do want to appreciate you, and thank you so much for everything that you've done for us. Yes,
ma'am. Thank you, Cheryl. Kathy?
Excuse me, before Kathy
Yes,
goes, can
Hazel?
I just mention one more thing?
Absolutely.
I don't want to forget, I went to Isley fourth grade choral presentation, fourth graders, and they were wonderful. I just wanted to give a shout out to them.
Absolutely. Kathy?
My list is long too, so bear with me. I'll try to make it as entertaining as I can. So I had the privilege to tour Franklin Elementary, La Overture, Spate, Clark, and Kensler with Tion Wilson with Prime Fit, and this is a fabulous program, and I said it when they gave their presentation. This is a program that I would love to see expand into our middle schools. I too listened to some at Southeast, the feedback from the staff, and took everything that they said to heart, which I'm glad administration did too. I attended several JROTC drill meets with Northeast, West, Southeast, and Northwest High School, and this is like, I wish that there could come a time when it would be the cool thing to be a cadet with JROTC. That would really eliminate a lot of our behavioral problems in school, I think. And two of these cadets actually approached me because they want to bring ROTC back to Wilbur Middle School. And so they have been going back and forth, which leads me into my next meeting with Colonel Hester to find out, what exactly do we need to do. And in that conversation, I would love to request Colonel Hester to come and give a presentation on the history of JROTC and what it all entails, because I'm not sure there's a lot of parents that know about this program. It's a subject where you're graded on it. One of our members of our board actually served as a cadet in ROTC at East High, and I'm very proud to South. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Southeast. Okay, so I got my directions mixed up. Anyways, I told you it'd be entertaining. So I would love to have Colonel Hester come in and do that. Then I attended the Northwest High School Battalion Barbecue, which was a lot of fun. The Bandorama, yes, we were freezing. And we saw, I think you guys were up in the box up there and nice and warm, but that's okay. Oh, you were down below? Okay, well, I don't feel so bad then. So we all froze together. What an impressive sight.
They never allow me in the.
Oh. Well, what an impressive sight to see all of our high school bands doing their halftime shows for the audience. We started the school year off a little rough, and there was a lot of negativity that we heard day and day. And you know what? I want to focus on how good our kids are. There are more of our students that are achieving than those that are not. And kudos to everybody involved in that. Then I attended the district crisis meeting with our wonderful Terry Moses up there, and she also makes it very entertaining, so I like to go. And I spent the afternoon, as we talked about earlier, with the cadets. Some of the board may know that I'm a professional volunteer, and I love to get involved in our community. And one of those aspects is I volunteer with Good Shepherd Hospice, where I am able to bring a coin in recognition to our veterans who are at end of life. Well, every year, Veterans Week, they ask me to recruit some military, you could say, for nursing homes. And I would really like to mention their names because these are wonderful, wonderful students. Cadet First Lieutenant Molly Eaton, Captain Tegan Hughes, Captain Craig Kemerick, Captain Dawson Carter, Captain Caitlin Wright, and Lieutenant Colonel Aiden Charlier. They gave up their time from school, which I'm sure they didn't mind, because, school, books, okay, anyway. They did a marvelous job, and they actually used their swords, and they presented the coins to our veterans. There were 6 veterans, must have been over the age of 88, and they were able to talk with us about their time in World War II and also the Korean War. So, to see students, our youth, presenting these certificates to our aging community, it just got me. Okay, and then I too went to the Northwest football game at the Wind Surge Stadium, and I won. They drew my name for some gift cards, which I just then passed along to the students, and I said, go have a good time. And super sack. I'm telling you, our kids are smart. Our kids are smart, and there was a setback with COVID, but I'm telling you, the kids that I've been talking to, they're not letting that get them down. They are not. They are continuing to move forward. They're striving. They've got a goal and they've got a plan. And I am so proud to be part of this district and to get to learn the administration and their efforts. Dr. Thompson, you're a wealth of information. We are going to miss you. You have done so much for our students, our faculty, our teachers, our parents, our boards, because you've had several, and you are appreciated and you will be missed.
Thank you, Kathy. Julie?
Well, I can't compete with these gals. But I was able to attend most of the Southeast listening sessions. Attended an orchestra concert at Southeast. And then I have also received a lot of phone calls about people wanting to be educated about the Board of Education question on the voting ballot. So I'll end with an agreement that are supporting also the statement that others have said tonight, and that is get out and vote.
Thank you, Julie. Ernestine?
I won't even attempt to. As a matter of fact, several things have been stolen from me already. I was going to announce, indeed, Hazel, this is Native American Heritage Month. And I really am proud because a lot of our schools are actually doing some educating, and particularly noticing that this school where we are sitting right now is on the land that was belonged to the particular tribe that here along the Arkansas River. I also attended some of the sessions at Southeast of listening, and I was really impressed. I was with the students in one of the groups, and they were so thoughtful as they were thinking about the cons and the pros. I was a little blown away because they were the younger students. They were like 9th or 10th grade, and they were able to come to think about it. And they were the ones that were able to figure out, well, if my mom could get me to the closest bus to Heights, could I get that bus? Another kid says, well, I could walk to that bus, to a bus stop. Could I then take it? So they were already figuring it out, and I think that. And I don't even remember what it was you said, but you took one of my things too. But going back to the thing about the vote, if you don't know where you're supposed to vote tomorrow, you can go online. It's ksvotes.org. And you can find out what your polling site is. Tomorrow you have to vote at your own polling site. You cannot do the one where it's been in the past week where you could vote anywhere. But tomorrow you have to be at your polling place that you're assigned. And you can find that out at ksvotes.org.
Thank you, Ernestine. Diane?
I think I need to do a better job of keeping track of what I do because I've forgotten half of it. So I did go to the Kansas Economic Conference. I had lunch with students at Meade Middle School, and I did attend all the listening sessions that I was able to attend where there weren't too many board members there. So I was at Southeast Heights, Northeast, and then I was at the parent listening sessions at Coleman and Adams. I felt it was important to hear how people were saying things, not just have a bullet point list, which is always helpful to have. But when you just have a list, you don't hear the passion, you don't hear the emotion behind what is being said. And I wanted to make sure that I was hearing from all parties that are going to be impacted by this decision. So I spent a lot of time being at as many of those as I possibly could to hear all the different stakeholders' thoughts. I was also part of the Honorary Cadet Board, and this was for middle school students. There were 6 middle schools that were represented, and they had 1 student from each middle school that were there. And so that was, being a previous cadet, I actually was on the Honorary Cadet Board, so some of the students found it to be a fun little fact that I was sitting in their hot seat at one point in time, it being peppered with a bunch of questions. And so it is a leadership program, and so we ask the students a number of questions on citizenship, leadership, and current events. So the student that won is Diana Wynn from Meade Middle School, and then the other students who were also selected, it is a great honor just to be selected, and those were Jennifer Sullivan from Pleasant Valley Middle School, Naomi Ibwich from Curtis Middle School, Chelsea Pinland from Hamilton Middle School, Elena Adams from Jardine Academy, and Fernando Martin del Campo de la Hoya from Marshall Middle School. And so to all those students, thank you and congratulations, and keep up the great work.
Thank you, Ernestine. You always have 2 reports, you know.
That's right. At least.
So from now on, I will put Ernestine 1 and Ernestine 2 from here on.
All right, smart guy. I did want to just thank, like, Diane and Hazel and Kathy. I wanted to thank those of you who did go to some of those community meetings. I saw some pictures and saw you in the background or saw you listening to people. And I wasn't able to be there, but I just really appreciated your presence there, listening to those people. Thank you for going there for me and for all of us to hear those and have it. Thank you.
And thank you for letting me razz you just a little bit there.
Yeah. Pick on somebody your own size.
I also appreciate this list of places because I think it indicates, and it's what I've seen in the last 2 months, is I'm very proud of this board. We really are starting to come together as 7 individuals working for our students. We're doing a better job of listening, and I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the reminder of the list because it's been such a blur this last year that I was like, when I hear you say something like, oh yeah, I was there, I remember being there. So I appreciate your activity on this board and the fact that you are listening to the community. That's going to be very beneficial as we make this very important next step with our next superintendent. So thank you. Patrick, next item, please.
Next item, new business.
Seeing none. Patrick, next item, please.
Next item, executive session.
I move the board recess to an executive session to discuss student discipline appeal hearings pursuant to the exception relating to actions adversely or favorably affecting a student under the Kansas Open Meeting Act. And the open meeting will resume in this room at 9:05 p.m.
I'll second that. Moved by Julie, seconded by Stan to move into executive session. Motion carries 7-0. What time are we back?
9:05.
9:05. Thank you. The Wichita Board of Education is back in session from executive session. We do need to make a motion on the appeal hearing of case number 1. I move that we uphold the disciplinary action recommended by staff.
Second.
Yeah. It was seconded by Julie. Motion carries 6-0. And we also had an appeal hearing, case number 2. I move that we uphold the appeal hearing recommendation by staff.
Second.
That one also carries 6-0. We do have another executive session, and Julie, I'll go ahead and I'll move that the board recess into an executive session to discuss pending negotiations between the BOE and the United Teachers of Wichita pursuant to the employer-employee negotiations exemption under the Kansas Open Meetings Act, and the open meetings will resume at this room at 9:18. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Stan, seconded by Cheryl. Motion carries.
Hazel, you didn't
Motion carries 6-0. We'll be back at 9:18. The Wichita Board of Education is returning from the second executive session. No action necessary or taken. Julie, the third executive session, please.
I move the board recess into an executive session for purposes of consulting with the board's attorney, who will provide advice concerning the application of law as it applies to the district, pursuant to the Kansas Open Meetings Act exception as allowed under KSA 754319, and the board return from executive session to this room at 9:35.
Second.
Moved by Julie, seconded by Cheryl. Motion carries 5-0. The Wichita Board of Education is returning from the third executive session. No action taken or needed. Patrick, next item, please.
Next item, adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
I second.
Moved by Julie, seconded by Kathy to adjourn. Our next meeting is maybe November 21st, definitely December 12th, I believe. Patrick, do you have the calendar in front of you? Could you confirm if it's December 12th? I apologize for putting you on the spot there. Yeah, I was going to just give you the dates again. Okay. We are adjourned.